So we're hoping that you can settle a minor disagreement, I suppose you would say. In today's video, what are we doing?
We're doing Betta versus something else.
And that something else is the honey gourami. And we're going to talk about them. I want to hear from you down in the comments section below. If you had to pick just one, which one would it be? Okay, so I think the first thing, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to take the side of the honey gourami because I really like these fish. Not that the Betta is bad or anything, but I just think not enough people consider the honey gourami. And I think the first thing that you should consider is there's actually two different colors. I know a lot of us are used to seeing the red honey gourami, but there's the gold as well. And they're both amazing looking fish. And if you're looking for a centerpiece fish for a smaller tank, let's say 10 gallons or greater, the honey gourami can be a really nice option with this awesome color. And by the way, before I forget, we have species profiles for both of these fish down in the description below if you want more information.
Yes, it is true, and it's totally awesome that the honey gourami comes in two amazing colors. I do happen to love honey gouramis. I'm just gonna say that right at the start. However, if you're gonna put honey gourami versus a Betta, chances are there are a whole lot more things you can think about for a Betta. One of the biggest bonuses for a Betta is versus the two colors for a honey gourami, you've got like a bazillion different colors for a Betta. You can have solids, you can go anywhere from all white to all black, any color in between. You can get different multicolored ones, the ones that have really cool names like koi and dragon, and so many different colors to choose from. You have no idea. And if you are looking for a particular color, I highly recommend that you hop on over to John and Lisa's website, keepfishkeeping.com. They have the most amazing, beautiful Bettas you have ever seen, and you can just go scrolling through, look whatever color you want.
Okay, yeah, the Betta's got awesome color, but there's something you definitely should consider, and that is, I think, overall, the honey gourami is a healthier fish. It hasn't been overbred to the point that some Bettas have been, and I just think they last a little bit longer. They're going to stay a little bit healthier in your fish tank and not have some of the problems that you see in Bettas long term. We've seen a lot of Bettas that wind up with tumors and they have all kinds of digestive issues, where the honey gourami, we haven't seen that nearly as much. Definitely something you should consider.
Well, yes, there is a possibility that you may have more health problems pop up with a Betta. That is a possibility. I have had Bettas that had health problems, but along with just the joy of keeping a Betta and all the different colors you get to choose from, I think another big bonus for choosing a Betta over a honey gourami would be you get a whole different bunch of choices for tail shapes. That's right, you can pick so many different, there are just so many different kinds. There are veil tails, there are crown tails. That's probably one of my absolute favorite. There are the plakat if you want a shorter tail variety. So there's shorter tail, longer tail. There are half moons are really, really beautiful. Rose tails, spade tails, deltas, so many different kinds of tails. And so if you combine that with all the different colors you get to choose from, there's like a million different options.
You know, the other cool thing you should consider about honey gouramis is they tend to really explore whatever fish tank they're in. For those of you who have had honey gouramis in the past, you know that they love to pick on things, plants, wood, rocks. They'll go through rocks, through wood, all around the tank. And this is something I think honey gouramis do better than Bettas. It's not that Bettas don't explore their tanks, they certainly do, but I think the honey gourami just does so more often and more frequently.
All right, so honey gouramis may venture around the tank a little bit more frequently and a little bit more thoroughly. However, Bettas, I think, even though I love honey gouramis, don't get me wrong, I think that they have a superior personality. They are basically a water puppy. If you want a best friend and you have a desk tank, really a tank anywhere in your house, the bestest friend that you're going to get for that tank, I think, is a Betta. They each have their own unique personalities. I've had Bob the Betta, who is totally different than Peanut, and I have a new little baby Betta. Her name is Snowflake, and she has a totally different personality than the other two. And they're just so amazing, and they're going to be your best friend. And they make an excellent coworker.
Okay, I cannot argue against the fact that bettas have great personalities, or at least a lot of them do. However, there is something you can do with a honey gourami that you are not going to be able to do with a betta, especially a male betta, and that is you can keep multiple honey gouramis together. Yes, you can keep them in groups. That's not going to work out so well if you've got multiple male bettas in the same tank, and even with betta sororities, which we've talked about before, I'll put that video in the upper right-hand corner, as well as in the description below. That can also be a problematic thing. But with the honey gouramis, they tend to get along well with one another, especially if you've got a 20-gallon or larger. It's something to consider, and you could mix the reds and the golds together and make it even cooler.
Well, yes, you've got me there. You really can't keep multiple bettas together. Multiple male bettas are a big no-no, and a female bettas kept together is very, very challenging, only for those that are very experienced. However, you can go to pretty much any pet store or online store, or like I said, keepfishkeeping.com, and you can find the most beautiful bettas. They are everywhere these days, and they're very easy to pick out your very own. And like I said before, with their awesome personalities, they watch you. So if you're going to pick one out, you can kind of guess their personality. They'll lock eyes with you. So if you are not looking to get a betta and you don't have a tank available yet, I highly discourage you. Do not go past the betta display or go online and start looking at bettas, because once you lock eyes with them, you're a goner and you're going to have to get them.
You want to know one of the coolest things about honey gouramis that I think there is a distinct advantage compared to the betta, and that is I think there are far more tank mates that you can keep with a honey gourami compared to a betta. Now, we did a video about bettas and betta buddies and fish you can keep with bettas up here in the upper right hand corner, as well as in the description below. But generally speaking, because honey gouramis don't have those long fins, because they tend to be more peaceful, you can keep a wider variety of fish with your honey gourami. And so as you start to build out that community tank, it might be a little bit easier, especially if you're using the honey gourami as a centerpiece fish, to figure out other types of fish to keep with your honey gourami.
Yes, it's true. The honey gourami offers a whole lot more tank mates. I will give you that. However, a betta is so awesome that you don't really need tank mates. So if you want some tank mates, there are plenty to choose from. But the last thing that I'm going to mention is that the betta can be kept in a smaller tank than the honey gourami, generally speaking. The smallest tank that we recommend to put a betta in is a 2.5 gallon. We've had longer 2.5 gallons that we were meaning to breed them. We never did really get to breed them. It is kind of a small tank. So I think the longer that you keep fish, the more you realize that it's just the bigger the tank that you give your betta or any other fish, the more interesting it is for the fish, and also more interesting it is for you watch the fish. There's just more space for the fish to adventure around. So 5 gallons these days are the size, the minimum size that I really like to keep my bettas in. It gives lots of interest for the betta to investigate its little home, and then also lots of interest for you to watch them.
All right, the last thing to consider when it comes to the honey gourami is, actually it's kind of two things. When you're looking at the tank setup, your filter flow is going to matter a lot more with your betta, especially if it's a male betta compared to your honey gourami. So you really have to keep that in mind when you're keeping a betta, making sure it doesn't get blown all over the tank and it's not getting exhausted from too much water flow. That's not as much of a concern with a honey gourami. Of course, you don't want any fish being blown around by your filter, but it's an extra consideration when it comes to your betta. But not only that, when you're setting up your tank, you really want to be careful to avoid sharp edges and wood that might be too sharp so your betta doesn't get its fins all torn up. Again, you always want to consider that with any fish, but it's not as much of a concern when it comes to the honey gourami. All right, everyone, so those are some things to consider when you're deciding between a honey gourami and a betta. By the way, can you keep them together? That can be a little bit hit or miss. I would say if you try that, keep a backup plan. We tried that. It didn't really work out all that well, but we haven't tried it a lot. If you want more information, check out the description below. We've got species profiles down there. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.